The Morning Sports Desk, available on demand on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts, and WadenaRadio.com.
It is the Morning Sports Desk on a Monday, the 9th of September. I'm CJ Baumgartner. There is Corey Tackman. And Corey, don't things just feel better on a victory Monday?
Purple Pride, baby. Purple Pride, baby. Let's go. That was fun. 9 for 9 at the half or whatever. That's pretty fun.
12 for 12 on his first 12 throws. Sam Darnold.
I'll take that.
Yeah, that'll play. If he could just do that like
every week. Yeah,
if he could just do that 16 more times, I think the Vikings would be set. I mean, it just feels so good that we can just hit this bumper with 100% sincerity again.
Oh, yeah.
It feels so good.
Are you feeling hot takey after week one? Were there some things where you're like, yes, I cannot wait to talk about this? Or was it just, you know what, 1-0, we'll take it. This is fun. It's relaxed. This is how it's supposed to be. And let's just live in this for a little bit.
I think we can just, there's one thing, and that the NFL had a tweet yesterday that said, reminder, every 1-0 team is going to the Super Bowl. So I'm feeling pretty good.
The NFL did that? That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically because it's so long, right? Like, they've been practicing since late July. It's been a month and a half to lead up to this point. And, of course, all winter and spring, summer long to get to this point. And to have your team go 1-0 is so cathartic. To start that season off right. There have been times where the Vikings lost the first game of the season and still went on to be competitive football teams. But doesn't it just suck all the air out of the balloon to come right out of the gate with all this energy and lose? So for them to come out and beat, not just win against the Giants team, Corey, but this is the largest margin of victory in the Kevin O'Connell era with a 22-point victory, 28-6. It's the first non-one score Vikings game in a long time. This is the largest Vikings margin of victory since 2019. That's 5 years.
Yikes.
I mean, just to fully come out, and I've heard other people say this take, and I'm going to agree with them here, is that the reason is, when was the last time the Vikings had a respectable defense? It had to be 2019, right?
I suppose, yeah.
And the thing about defenses are, when you have a decent one, they can put a team away. And they can, the 2022 Vikings are a good example. Kirk would come out and they'd get up 14-0. But because the defense has more holes than Swiss cheese, they're just going to find a way to come back or make it interesting. And the thing about, it helps that the Giants are bad, but for them to come out and do that is great. So those are a couple things that I wanted to get out of the way. And just once again,
I think that is an important caveat though here. And it's, I hope this isn't dousing water on the flames of optimism, but the Giants are really stinky at football.
They're, oh my,
shout out the defense. Van Ginkel gets the pick six, which, by the way, doesn't it, with the notable exception of the last time the Vikings and Giants played, doesn't it feel like the Vikings pick six the Giants every single time they play? I just have Darren Sharper running for six.
Carson Smith had a pick six against Eli Manning on a 2015 Sunday Night Football game, I think.
It just feels like they get them every single time, with the notable exception of the playoff loss a couple of years ago. But
remember that game where Xavier Rhodes mentally broke Odell Beckham Jr.?
Yes.
On Monday Night Football. That was fun.
They kind of own the Giants over the last, half decade to a decade.
5-0 in their last 5 meetings.
Yep.
Not playoffs, obviously. Which seems like a weird thing to say.
5-1 in their last 6. But the Giants are really bad, but they did all the things that when you're hopeful for your team, they do against bad teams. They snuff them out defensively. They keep putting up points when they need to keep putting up points. There's no major let up or anything. Made plays when they needed to make plays. That was fun. That was a fun win.
It was a fun win. We got to start at the quarterback position, I think. And we mentioned it a little bit already, but Sam Darnold starting the game 12 for 12, throwing a couple touchdown passes. And I think, there's a couple different plays, but is there a Sam Darnold play in this game that stuck out where you're like, oh, just one where you don't like freak out, but you just kind of look and go, oh, okay, all right.
I mean, no, not like his throw to Jefferson up the sideline was a nice throw. He put it like right on the money, and Jefferson was open. But if that throw is not where it's supposed to be, there's a corner underneath and a safety over top, that ball gets deflected or it's at least a more contested catch. And because Darnold put it exactly where it needed to be, Jefferson caught it in stride and did whatever. And then a few plays later, the touchdown to Jefferson was like, okay, here's all the finesse that we need on this sideline throw. Now I'm going to show off an absolute missile. So I thought like in that particular drive, in that touchdown drive, he was able to show off kind of the two things that you need. You need to be able to finesse some of those throws in. You need to be able to howitzer a few throws in. So, he showed his skill there. Otherwise, no, I thought it was like, it looked like a game plan that knew how to beat a lowly Giants team. Guys were open. Darnold didn't make anything look wonky. Like if they needed to be led, he led them. If it needed to be a back shoulder to help protect them a little bit, it was back shoulder. Generally, guys were wide open, which is it's easier to make good throws when they're wide open. I know there's one play in particular that led to a touchdown that was, that throw was right on the money, but it was the scheme that kind of got him there, right?
Yeah, I mean, there were that touchdown pass for sure to Tristan Jackson, or wait, right? Who am I thinking of? Jalen Nailor, excuse me.
Yes.
Yeah, Jalen Nailor. In the end zone, just a perfect case of the announcers before the game pointed out Jefferson's in the backfield. And obviously the Vikings are not giving Jefferson the ball to run up the middle, but there's going to be some trickery there. The Vikings are scheming something, and Kevin O'Connell had Jefferson go out wide. And because he does that, he bumps and he forces the defense to have to align, and defense has to bump with them and change their coverage on the fly. And it leads to a miscommunication between two Giants DBs who both head towards Jefferson, whether like that's the plan of like make sure everybody just shadows Jefferson, or whether they just got confused and let Jalen Nailor just run unprotected up the sideline into the end zone. That's one where Kevin O'Connell should get a little stat on that one for how well he schemed that play up. There's also another one where they were in like 21 personnel, which means they have 3 wide receivers on the field. And then they had CJ Ham at the running back spot, one of the running back spots, and he goes out and basically goes in motion to become a wide receiver. And what it does is then it creates that 4 verticals concept to beat that cover 2 that the Giants were having at that point in the field. And it just led Josh Oliver to be wide open in the middle of the field. And it just, again, set them up for an Aaron Jones touchdown early. And we'll get to him in a second. But I mean, overall, I think Sam Darnold had said he just needs to be the point guard. I think that's like he quoted himself as saying that over training camp of like, I don't need to make like ungodly throw. I have Justin Jefferson. I have Jordan Addison. I have Aaron Jones in the backfield. Like, I don't need to feel like I need to hit a home run ball every play. I need to run the offense. And he did to perfection, pretty much. I mean, there was an interception, but like the game was already out of hand at that point. He got hit as he threw. Like, that's whatever. Like,
that's not on him.
Not on him. So I think overall from Darnold, that's if Sam Darnold is going to work as the Vikings quarterback, it is going to be because of having performances, not like this completion percentage wise, but just running the offense and just doing the plays. He hit what was in front of him. He pushed the ball a couple times, like on that deep ball to Jefferson. But there were some times where he just said, you know what? I'm going to dump it down. I'm going to do that. And that's in this game, in this situation. Yeah. Don't give the other team more opportunities.
You're allowed to push it. You're allowed to push the ball down the field to a guy like Justin Jefferson, right? I mean, we are, if we want to make fun of Kirk Cousins here for a minute, because of course he checked down late in the game and took a sack late in the game because things weren't open. But the point, our complaint a lot of times with Cousins was we just take the chance. You have the receivers who can make a play for you. Like, it is okay to throw an interception because you tried to thread the needle to Justin Jefferson between 2 or even 3 guys. I don't have any issue with that in a calculated manner in the right spots in the game, the right spot on the field. There's times to do it. And it seemed like, Darnold executed. Now, if he executes, and the Vikings look that good again against San Francisco in a week, now my ears will officially perk up. But you also used the Jalen Naylor example of that touchdown, and they had 2 DBs over there, and both decided to cover one guy, and they got lost in the shuffle, which is exactly the point of setting the play up as you did. But that was pretty poorly executed on their part also, which helps the cause. In general, if we're going to look back, if we're going to get fast forward to the end of the season and look back on this Viking season, I don't think yesterday's game changed how we feel. This is still a team that is going to probably have to fight pretty hard to be 500. And if that's who you are, well, it's because you took care of business against bad teams. They took care of and did exactly what they needed to do against a team that might be the number 1 pick might have the number 1 pick in the 2025 draft.
Yeah, Daniel Jones is legendary when it comes to getting coaches fired because he might do it a 3rd time.
Is this the earliest jersey burning in the history of sports fandom? Because I saw that happen on social media yesterday. They're burning Danny Dimes jerseys in the parking lot.
Well, it's on them for buying a Danny Dimes jersey. So
that's fair. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, and the thing is, the Vikings just played the long game. Ed Donatell was just having such a horrible performance in the postseason that the Giants would extend Daniel Jones to the point where they couldn't draft a quarterback in this year's draft, which let the Vikings get J.J. McCarthy and which let the Vikings just walk in for a week 1 victory. So Ed Donatell, you finally helped the Vikings win a game. It took you 3 years.
You did what you had to do, buddy. Thank you.
Your services will not be forgotten in Donashell defense. The defense did play very well. I think that goes without saying. It just looked good. And the fact of the Vikings could use them. If they had Kirk Cousins, they can't sign Andrew Van Ginkel. If they have Kirk Cousins, they can't, they can't sign a guy like Jonathan Grenard. They can't sign some of these other guys. And the fact that the defense just has so many different ways to attack on the front 7, the Giants don't really have any wide receivers. So Malik Neighbors will be good, but he doesn't have a quarterback to get him the football. So the secondary wasn't a huge concern today. It will be next week when they play the 49ers. Trust me. Mm-hmm. But this week they just took care of business. I think it was just nice to see that Daniel Jones had no clue how to stop this defense. He threw a couple bad interceptions. And they just took care of business, I think. One last thing on this Vikings game, and then we'll move on here. Aaron Jones. How nice is it to have a running back that, and again, we don't want to dump on Alexander Mattison here because he was asked to do too much. That's not his fault. They offered him a contract extension with a pay raise. He took it. He's just not going to be that player. But I will say, it's just so nice when Aaron Jones got that ball on the goal line, Vikings down 3-0 in the first quarter, 2nd and goal from the 2, and it's clogged. And Vikings running backs, whether it was Ty Chandler or Madison or really even 2022 Dalvin Cook, would just get swallowed up at the line of scrimmage. And he found a way to sidestep, shuffle, and get into the end zone. And he finished the day sneakily with 94 yards and a touchdown. And it just feels so good to have I'm not going to say he's going to be great because he's 30-year-old Aaron Jones, but just a competent running back there helped out so much with the Vikings.
I would even go so far as to say this. I think Alexander Mattison still is a fine running back.
He had a 20-some yard touchdown yesterday.
He just fumbled the ball too much. I don't think this is about speed and explosiveness when in regards to Alexander Mattison. The guy can do it. He just couldn't hang on to the ball last year, and good riddance, he's not on the Vikings anymore. So that is what I would have to say about Alexander Mattison. I had 2 prevailing thoughts on Aaron Jones. And the first one was, in spite of that touchdown, I was like, okay, this guy clearly has good vision. He still has He got to the corner. That was cool. When he got to the corner and he scored, it was like, oh, okay. It looked like he was maybe going to get snagged from behind, but he made it. But my initial thought was more because of the way Chandler played. I was like, Chandler's clearly the more explosive guy in the backfield. And I didn't think like that's not as a detriment to what Jones can do. I was actually like, oh, this is actually kind of fun. Like they've got a veteran who can read holes and he can burst through the gap. And he's not explosive though. And he's not gonna, but they've got that explosive guy to come off the bench in Chandler. And like, this could be a fun two-headed monster. And then as the game went on, I was like, oh no, I misinterpreted what looked like unexplosiveness to be effortlessness.
Right.
Like he is still and can be explosive. And all of a sudden his patience will turn into a, let's cut it back the other direction. And now what could have been a 2-yard gain was a 17-yard gain or something like that. There's some good things. It took until week 9 last season to get the first rushing touchdown, and they got it in week 1 this year.
Their very first touchdown of the season. And by the way, they play San Francisco. That's going to be a tough one. Houston is still going to be tough. But
by the way, they'll play tonight, so it's going to be a short turnaround for San Francisco. Right. After Monday night home opener, short turnaround. They come to Minnesota. So that's a Vikings advantage.
That is a little advantage there for the Vikings. Yes. And Houston look, you're going to be underdogs, but it's not after the week 1 performance and how they took care of business. You could see the probability of a Vikings win isn't favored, but you could see it going up a little bit. And don't forget when they go to Green Bay, Jordan Love is not going to be quarterback for the Green Bay Packers.
Mm-hmm.
That's now all of a sudden that changes the math a little bit.
It does.
So you have a chance to go 2-2 after the first month of the season. And I've said this for about 10 years now. If you going 2-2 after the first month of the season, whether you're expected to contend or not contend, is a nice spot to be in. You can go anywhere from that.
Especially because there's no preseason games either anymore. Like guys play in the preseason. So if you can come out of that unscathed with a 500 record or better, you've just helped your cause. Now, I mean, sometimes you're getting wins against guys who haven't played at all, right?
Right.
Like they just haven't played. This game 1 of the regular season is a preseason game. You're still working out a lot of kinks there. One of the things I thought the Vikings had to their advantage is that Darnold played a little bit in this preseason. There was enough turnover all around on this roster to everybody who kind of needed to play did play. But yeah, I mean, if you can get to 2 wins by your bye week, that you're already ahead of probably what most people's pace thinks it's going to be for you.
Yeah, and looking at, just a great win. Just a great win. Moving on, we're looking at the leaderboard now for the Pro Football Challenge, Corey, and brought to us by the good folks at the Liquor Depot in Staples. And here we go. Looking at the K106 team, it appears that I can't get, for whatever reason, this to show up here on my screen.
Where's your team, by the way?
Good question. I think I did so bad that they didn't let me in. So I think so. I mean, I don't blame them, really.
I better send an email then.
Kyle in the forefront right now, leading on this Pro Football Challenge as I try and get to, here we go, with 12 points. Zeke has 11. From the Liquor Depot, they have 11.
Yep.
Corey has 10, and our sales guy Mike has 7. On the top 10 leaderboard, Steven Johnson leading things off, and Joey Price and John Hamburg and Wade Benson all have 13 points. We have a 4-way tie for first place. And then we have Jeff with 12 points, Sadie Benson with 12, Paul Mattoon 12, Derek Boyd 12, Nick Schultz 12. A lot of people having some early success on this Pro Football Challenge, Corey.
Yeah, we should go through to see who they have. It's the Niners and Jets tonight. So there's a Niners pick for Steven. Joey, let's see who Joey has for the, there's another Niners pick. So we're not going to get any changes between those two. Next one, San Francisco, and for John, and Wade picks San Francisco. So those are going to be your top 4 at least. And we've got a handful there otherwise who could also creep. Well, no, you can't creep into 14 because nobody picked the Jets there. So it's going to be one of those 4 in tomorrow's winner for week 1 of the Pro Football Challenge.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun watching tonight's game. We're going to see if Aaron Rodgers' leg is going to hold up in that one. That'll definitely sway things a little bit. And man, Kirk Cousins did not. Somebody had footage of Kirk Cousins throwing off that torn Achilles, like that was his throwing leg. Did not look comfortable. Let me put it to you that way.
Bummer.
Bummer,
dude.
Kirk Cousins, and I don't mean to like spit on this guy's grave as he's gone, but isn't it just so nice that we don't have to we don't have to like find workarounds like, well, and what, like, you turn the page, you move on, and it's Atlanta's problem now because inevitably Kirk Cousins is going to throw for 300 yards and 2 touchdowns in the next 2 weeks and make everybody go, oh, okay. But there's already calls for Michael Penix from some fans. So
I would argue that Kirk Cousins was arguably good for the Vikings. He has some frustrating qualities to him.
Right.
And some of those frustrating qualities appeared in week 1.
Mm-hmm.
Bummer. So I feel terrible for them.
Bummer.
I don't feel terrible. The stupid dirty bird.
You're not bitter about 98, are you?
Hate it. I hate them. Hate them.
Hate them with everything I got.
They're high on my sports hate list. We had a conversation this weekend about some sports hate and how I need Bo Nix to be bad, not because of Bo Nix, whatever. I don't care about him at all, but I think Sean Payton is public enemy number 1 on my sports hate list right now.
Yeah,
that guy.
Public enemy number 1, Sean Payton. And remember, by the way, he drafted Bo Nix and then was really snarky at the press conference, like, oh, I made the Vikings trade up for a guy that I didn't even want.
Right.
Cool, man. Take Bo Nix. He threw a bad interception in the second half.
Yeah.
And your team lost to the Seahawks.
Yeah. Oh, poor Sean Payton.
Oh, that guy just has it so rough. Oh, turns out you're not the legendary quarterback guru. Turns out you stumbled into Drew Brees because Nick Saban didn't want him. Oh, darn it.
I know.
Darn it. Drew Brees in Miami with Nick Saban would have been fascinating. But instead he chose Dante Culpepper.
Who had 2 MVP seasons, essentially, if Peyton Manning hadn't broken records.
Before the knee injuries.
Isn't Dante Culpepper the one who bought all his baby mama's houses on the same cul-de-sac?
Wouldn't be surprised.
Isn't that him? I think that was him who did that.
I don't know. It'd be fascinating. We're trying to put off talking about the Minnesota Twins because, man, was this bad. I would call it, in fact, an unprofessional series of baseball where they score 2 runs in 3 games. And Corey, not only did I think it was unprofessional, so does Rocco Baldelli. Quote, that was an unprofessional series of baseball that we just played, and that's my only comment, Baldelli said before noting he wouldn't take questions. I'm not commenting on anything else. I don't think anything else really has to be said, so you guys can run with that and go for it. But that's all I got. Think he's had it.
Is there any credence though to the fact that also a guy who was unprofessional in this whole thing was him by pulling Bailey Ober when he did?
Yeah, but here's the thing about pulling Bailey over though, that I think you're right. I think he was cruising, but he probably wasn't going to go 9, and you were going to have to bring in Jax or Duran anyways, and both those guys were a mess.
Right. I mean, yeah, I understand that, but then why would you bring a guy in who ended up being a mess? Like you brought in a guy who was a mess for a guy who was not presently a mess. I know some of this is like judging the results I get it, all of that, but like, was it 7 complete shutout innings? Was that his stat line when they pulled him?
Yeah, on like 80 pitches or something like that.
What are we doing? So it's not, I'm not when you add all of those things together, when you add the Twins playing unprofessionally and then the manager making that all, like, you know what, guys, you kind of deserve to get swept if that's how we're going to do this. Why are we doing? It's not April when we're still getting arms ready to roll. It's September baseball. And I don't know if you know this, CJ, pretty important games. These are pretty important now. They're running out of time really quickly. And only 3.5 up on Detroit and Seattle for that final wild card spot. And I don't know if they're tail spinning yet, but the engine's on fire.
I don't know if they're officially tail spinning because they have 3 games at home against the Angels, a day off, 3 games at home against the Cincinnati Reds. If by the end of that, we're still like, we'll find out. And I think there is a point to also say with Baldelli, like, whether it's indirectly or directly from him, you're still the manager of this bunch. Like, so if it's an unprofessional series, there is some looking inward that does need to take place there, because, and it sometimes isn't on the field, but sometimes behind the scenes, like, what are we doing to get them ready? What are we doing game plan wise? What are we doing? And again, we don't know what, were the Twins going, were the Twins not following, whether just because they were deciding not to, or they just couldn't help and like couldn't be disciplined enough to follow game plan. There's a lot of things that go into this, but they're playing really bad baseball right now. Mm-hmm. Really bad baseball. And it's a combination of a couple things. One, the schedule did get tougher over the last month. That is true.
They did not play well through their toughest part.
They did not.
Going into the toughest part, they're going to need to play well. So that didn't work out. And the other thing is, this is a team where Byron Buxton is not healthy. Carlos Correa is not healthy. Royce Lewis is healthy, but he is a 23-year-old, 24, whatever he is. He's trying to figure, again, he has not played a ton of baseball, and he's going through his first big slump, and he's got to figure it out. And because no one's healthy, they can't just sit him down. And because these games are important, they can't just be like, listen, dude, there's a 4-game series. Well, if we got a 4-game series, you're going to play 2, you're going to sit 2, you're going to get an off day. Like, he's got to play because all of these things are starting to stack up.
Right. So this is a team without their 3 best hitters contributing. That's why their bullpen has been a mess, and that we've said that enough. But I think this lineup is hurt, and not only that, Jose Miranda hasn't hit a home run since July. Trevor Larnach's been hot and cold. Like, Brooks Lee is still trying to figure it out at the big league level. Like, there's just some, Max Kepler has played bad and is hurt and is on the IL. Like, this is just a team that feels like it's falling apart a little bit. And whether it's tail spinning because they're playing bad or they're tail spinning because they're injured. Yeah, it doesn't matter the reason. What matters is that it's happening. Right.
and it's probably all of those. I mean, all of those things are reasons why and to call out Rocco for the Bailey Ober thing is probably not entirely fair considering all of those other things. I just don't get some of it sometimes. Like, why are we not paying attention to what's actually happening? That's the part that bugs me still to this day. And I know I sound old, but like, are you present in the moment? Are you seeing what's happening? Or are we just like, there we are. We made it to the 7th inning. Good job, kid. You did your job. Exit stage right. We got your back. I mean, I get it. That's why you have these plans in place. You can't just be willy-nilly. But this team could use a jump start. Wouldn't it have been fun to see if Bailey Ober could have gotten through the 8th scot-free and out to start the 9th? Doesn't this team need something like that?
Right. No, I think you're right. I think, and there's also the recency bias of the last time they did that. Bailey Ober gave up a 3-run lead and the Twins lost to San Diego. So that's the flip. But I don't
gives up a hit.
Right. But here's the other thing. And I think this is why, like, I'm not as concerned, is because I think it speaks to a much larger issue, is the fact of Jackson, Duran are your 2 best relievers. And Duran is really bad right now. Like, that's the bigger issue. The bigger issue is, like, you have nobody, like, 0. Now,
so
one person.
If we got nobody to back you up, this is your show, kid. You're doing it. Go out and get this done for us. Those guys need a break. Don't Jax and Duran just need a breather? What are we doing? That doesn't make any sense, CJ.
It's a mess. It's a mess. All right. Well, we could talk about this in circles, but I think we got to wrap it up. This has been the morning sports desk for Monday, September 9th.
The Morning Sports Desk, available on demand on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts, and WadenaRadio.com.